We're back, baby. We're back. We're back. We're back. StryfeSight on Goldie. StryfeSight on Goldie. Now, once again, we will go back. We will always go back to show you where we started and to possibly show you where we're going. Now, I started this music research with hip hop. I started with Pac, then I did Biggie, then we went to UGK, then I went to Twista. This was all a treat. Then I was like, you know what? Let's switch genres. Let's go rock. I went Journey, then I went Led Zeppelin, then Black Sabbath, and then I did Heart. Right? Then I was like, okay, we did rock, we did hip hop, R&B. Let's hit the R&B, right? So for R&B, I did the Isley Brothers, Patti LaBelle, Sade, and then Anita Baker. Right? I did Anita Baker. And now we are on the month of EDM. We're on the month of EDM. Week 2 has subsided. The first week I did Daft Punk. It was they are forefathers of house. They're forefathers of house music, and they had a lot of different genres. Some techno. There's a lot of electronic music going on. You know, dance grooves. And now we are on Goldie. I was trying to look for a forefather of drum and bass, or jungle, or drum and bass jungle, or jungle/drum and bass. We'll get into that later. But Goldie is one of those forefathers. So I had no clue who this guy was. But I believe I do like drum and bass from what I have heard from the genre, I believe. Like, I'll look up drum and bass playlists. Like, I'll look up that every now and then if I want some ambient music, or sometimes some music that goes behind games, something like that. So yeah. But you know, after this, I have no clue where we're going, but I definitely had a treat. Definitely had a treat in regards to this. And with all of that said, no clue where we're going after this for EDM. I don't know what genre to branch into. I might make this a house and drum and bass thing, but I would like to expound. But I am afraid that there is so much data within some of these subgenres that it would benefit me to stick around the genres. So I could just do house D&B, you know, and then switch genres. But I don't know. We're not completely sure. But into the reason why I am here on stream today, we are talking about Goldie. Now, Goldie only has 3 albums, kind of. I only reviewed the 3 albums because there was so much learning for me to do in regards to listening to drum and bass. So I'm aware that he has a moniker called a Rafigi Crew or something like that. Let's see. What is the moniker here? Discography. Yeah, he switched names and had an alias called Rafigi Crew, and made 3 albums. And I actually did not review them because there was so much learning I had to do. Just with the 3 albums that I listened to: Timeless, Saturn's Return, and Journeyman. Now, without further ado, let us go into Timeless. Now, Timeless by Goldie came out in 1995. And Timeless opens with a self-titled, ethereal, transformative passage into some drums and beautiful vocals. This, at the time, was the longest track I have ever listened to, at 21 minutes long. But it was a transformative experience. It also had multiple songs in it that were in this album as well. So I thought that was interesting. Now, the bass in this song regularly cycles around the snare, or not in this song. The bass, this is just something I noted. The bass regularly cycles around the snare, and the vocals come in for a period and immediately add emotions, or kind of like maybe romantic emotions or pensive emotions rooted in a desire of a relationship or to receive love. Now, also, I've come to the conclusion while listening to Saint Angel, the second track, right? While listening to Saint Angel, I've come to the conclusion that the Yoshimitsu theme from Tekken 2, which sounds really familiar, can't quite put my finger on what exactly that is, but I'm a Tekken guy. So the Yoshimitsu theme that you're actually hearing from Tekken 2 is a drum and bass song, I believe. For sure, this is drum and bass that we're listening to. Now, Saint Angel has a similar vibe and pace as this song that we're hearing now. So it's just something that I noticed while listening to Saint Angel. Now, I have a notable song here called State of Mind. This just feels like a beautiful jazz and R&B song with soothing female vocals. It didn't necessarily feel like it was a drum and bass or any song. It just, it's okay. It's nothing wrong with that. It's just that I was expecting the entire album and all of the creations of music to just specifically be D&B, and I don't know why. I don't know why I thought that. It's okay that that the entire projects are not that. Another notable song I have here is Adrift. This is a beautiful jazz and R&B sounding song with beautiful male vocals and also a beautiful saxophone play. I would consider this more jazz and R&B than EDM, like any day. So there are multiple songs that do this, right? Which is pretty cool. And another notable song here is Inner City Life, Rabbit's Short Attention Span edition. This is a jungle D&B jam featuring beautiful vocals from Diane Charlemagne. This song makes you want to, move your head and nod and dance with a fun-felt melody and creative drums backing, keeping the pace pretty steady. So it's a beautiful song. I loved it. Now, the hits in this album end up being Timeless and State of Mind. Now, the vibes of this album felt filled with energy and emotion, emotional vibes. I believe that the drums and the bass are providing the energy for like movement or working out or just movement as a whole. But the samples and the vocals are providing an emotional tone that sometimes can be somber or sad, or sometimes like more lively and uplifting, depending on depending on how the producer uses the sample in the music. Interesting vibe. Now, the subgenres in this, Goldie bounced around from atmospheric D&B that has jazzy elements fast break beats, and soulful vocals. Think Inner City Life. Another subgenre is tech step, which is heavy mechanized rhythms and distorted bass lines. Also jungle, which is chopped break beats, sometimes with reggae vocals and heavy sub bass. My favorite song ends up being Inner City Life. This atmospheric D&B just feels touching. There's an emotional potency due to the vocals. Even though they're repeating vocals, they hit a specific tone to help drive the song, and the drums help provide the atmosphere and the atmosphere and the drive of the song as well. So I love it. I love it a lot. It's beautiful. Next album we have 1998. We went to Saturn's Return. Saturn's Return. Now, this opens up with an extremely lengthy track, Mother, 60 minutes and 11 seconds. This begins with pure atmosphere, light percussion into beautiful female vocals, and then transitions with a soft orchestral passage with more somber vocals from a guy. I can't feel my mother is the cadence. You know, don't talk about my singing. I know my singing ain't the best. But you know, that's what we got. That's what we got. Let me turn this track down a little bit. Okay, that's all we got. We'll just have to rock with that, which is fine. But yeah, I can't feel my mother is the cadence that they're going for, and it is said a number of times. Now, at 22 minutes in, the song surges with breakbeats and, you know, cue the drum and bass with long noted vocals. Mother, you know, and at 27 minutes, the snares enter the fray, you know, along with more atmospheric background and some what sound like to me as aquatic sounds, you know. And then they add some 6 cycling reverb sub bass at 30 minutes, you know. And at 35 minutes, mechanical atmospheric breakdown into a new, more atmospheric vibe with different breakbeats. So it's pretty cool. At 38 minutes, a slow and beautiful transition that removes the drums entirely to reintroduce the orchestra strings and somber low notes from a group of brass, I think French horns, that bring us back to the male vocalist. I can't feel my mother with peaceful orchestra accompaniment. So it's pretty cool. And the song from there stays in that vibe until the end. It's truly a beautiful, transformative experience. 60 minutes, man. Definitely the longest song I have ever listened to. And it was a treat. Now, after that, we have a notable song here called Digital. This is a drum and bass hip hop fusion record. It's phenomenal rhyming by KRS-One and some filthy breakbeats that support the entire song. It just feels like a dope fusion. I think this may be what they call trip hop. I could be wrong, but I think that is this might be one of the earliest versions of it. I've done a little research, so I believe I'm correct in that. I have another song here called Believe. This is a beautiful vibe, maybe jazz step song that has a very jazzy background with the trumpet and very jazz like percussion and some female vocals that are nice, but it's just a very, very chill vibe of a song. I like it a lot. Now, a number of the songs on this album feels like 90s video game background. There are a decent amount of games that have this type of instrumental background, and it's very cool to hear, honestly. As a kid that grew up in the 90s, you know, I played Gran Turismo that had songs like this. I played Bomberman that had songs like this. I did not play Ape Escape, but that had songs like this as well, you know. They used, you know, jungle drum and bass in their games in the 90s, so this was pretty interesting to hear. It was nostalgic is the word I'm looking for. Now, I have another song here called Crystal Clear. This D&B song is like maybe atmospheric and jazzy with beautiful vocals. I am a big fan of the song and how half of it is vocals and the rest is just breakbeats, breakbeats and D&B. So this song was a treat for sure. Now, the hits in this album are Temper and Believe. The vibes in this album felt a bit more grand than the last album, more cinematic, and it did still have decent emotional tone with some of the vocals, and still felt really energetic thanks to the breakbeats and the cycling sub bass. Now, the subgenres in this end up being trip hop with Digital, and jazz step with Crystal Clear and Believe, with Crystal Clear is the jazz step song, and Believe is more atmospheric D&B. But also there was acid jazz in this. Also there was tech step in this, And of course, there was modern and cinematic orchestra because Mother was a collaboration, a collaborative effort, 60-minute collaborative effort that was intense. It was intense and beautiful. My favorite song in this ends up being Digital. This song just feels like the earliest hip hop fusion with EDM that I know of, at least. And I liked it a lot. I'm not very familiar with KRS-One. I'll admit I do know who he is and by face who he is, but I can't tell you a bunch of his tracks. I'll be honest. I have not done the history. But it was dope to hear some of his rhymes, you know, some of his great rhymes over, you know, over the beat, over the EDM beats, you know. It was a good time. A good time. And last album we have here is The Journeyman. The Journeyman. I was worried that the first track was going to be even longer because the first track on Timeless was 20 minutes and the first track on Saturn's Return was 60 minutes. So I was a little worried, but it was not. This opens with Horizons. And this is just a smooth jam with beautiful female vocals and an atmospheric D&B kind of vibe. Now, I have a notable song here called Mountains. This is a slower pace, seemingly soft rock song, like, you know, with sultry female vocals, and, you know, honestly, it's a chill song, truly. But it was definitely a bit of a turn from what I was expecting. I did instantly notice that many songs on this are, you know, electronic and jazz or neo soul female vocals, you know, quite the vibe. Maybe liquid D&B is what I'm thinking, or trip hop subgenres, you know, Horizons and Mountains, you know, Adore You. I do love those songs, and they honestly embody a really good vibe. Now, I have another song here called Truth. This is a beautiful jazzy vibe, slow piano and drums song with great guy vocals. I make sure to note when there are guy vocals because the majority of the vocals have been female vocals. So it is very noticeable when they switch that up because there are like maybe 3 or 4 male vocals compared to like maybe triple that for female vocals when they sample or when Goldie samples, but just something to make note of. Now, I have another notable song here called Redemption. This is a lengthy 18-minute track that starts as a racing track is what I thought of. I was like, oh, this goes well in the background of a racing game, or just racing in general. You know, break beats, fast-paced, energetic vibe. It shifts into a more soulful jazz step kind of vibe with some pure female vocals, you know, singing about the road filled with redemption. And then after that, it breaks down with funky sub bass and introduces a groovy, trippier vibe, but ceases the singing. You know, so I thought that was a pretty cool 18-minute track, Redemption. Now, I have another notable song here, Tu Biens Avec Moi. I'm not sure if I said that right. I believe that is French. It is an amazing track that translates to Will You Come With Me? Beautiful piano and soothing singing in the beginning that just keeps an upbeat, jazzy presence that I love. Now, we have another song here called This Is Not a Love Song. This song is a beautiful jazzy and R&B feel that also feels sensual and not like a love song, but very near a love song. It's it's beautiful. I like the idea. Now the hits in this end up being I Adore You, Prism, and Horizons. The vibes in this album were very energetic from the jump, but this album also set an emotional tone pretty early with the soulful singing and the more jazzier and R&B singing styles on top of the breakbeat. So overall, energetic and dance, bouncy dance vibe that just, makes you feel. The subgenres in this were liquid drum and bass, trip hop, acid jazz, atmospheric drum and bass, and down tempo. My favorite song ends up being Tu Biens avec moi. This song just feels like the right mix of beautiful vocals with a really fun and memorable melody and background. It's just very smooth and very much so a Noel Strife track. I love that song for sure. Now, into our conclusion, the drama that I was able to find, which wasn't too much, but here's one of the things: the Glastonbury assault conviction. Now, in 2017 in England, Goldie was in an altercation with a security guard at the largest greenfield music and performing arts festival in the world, the Glastonbury Festival. The issue began, though, from a guard refusing to let Goldie's daughter backstage. So the situation escalated into a court proceeding in 2018 where Goldie actually pleaded guilty from a FaceTime video while he was living in Thailand. So thought that was interesting. I'll beat you up if you don't let my daughter backstage. I mean, I'm kind of with him on that. I mean, like if if I got a kid and they just trying to get backstage, I don't know how old the kid was at the time, but like you can't get in the way, man. Can't get in the way of parents and their kids, or bad stuff will happen. This is a very obvious fact. But more drama we have here is who wrote Timeless? Timeless is the 60-minute track on Saturn's Return, I believe. Yep. Or no, not Timeless is the 20-minute track on the first album, right? This the who wrote Timeless debate is something that it has an online presence. Forums debate Goldie's actual musical contribution. It is a known fact that Goldie directed the sound and aesthetic, while producers like Rob Playford and Moving Shadow handled the actual engineering and buttons. So some hardcore fans feel like this makes his legacy a little inconsistent, and others defend him as a vital visionary and A&R mastermind that helped make the genre popular. So I thought that was like some interesting drama to have. Not nothing too crazy or spicy. Now, Inner City Life, Angel, Timeless, Chemistry, I Adore You. There are several hit songs here that are early versions of some subgenres of D&B, or just fantastic tracks as a whole that many fans of EDM would know, especially drum and bass. Now, the vibes while listening to Goldie were largely energetic and infectious at times, and either emotional but like pensive, like sad, or uplifting based on how the vocal sample was used. If they take a more sadder toned vocal, then the song dips to more of a pensive vibe. If they take a more uplifting sample and push it, then the song feels more positive and happier. So thought that was interesting. Now, the subgenres, this musical venture into drum and bass was the most informative week of research I've ever had. I have to thank my favorite sidestepper in Tekken, Oni, and one of my favorite fighting game competitors, Static Alpha, for providing definitions, explanations, and videos to me in regards to D&B subgenres. Now, I learned that jungle is a heavily online debated genre that technically predates, or I shouldn't air quote predates. It does predate drum and bass, like as a term, but is still drum and bass, or rather maybe renamed as drum and bass later. My bro hamster Oni said something that made sense to me earlier. Jungle is D&B, but jungle is a subgenre of D&B because of how D&B evolved. So, take that with how you will. Things that I've learned. Goldie's subgenres were jungle, darkcore/hardcore, liquid drum and bass, atmospheric/ambient drum and bass, modern and cinematic orchestra, tech step, acid jazz, trip hop, and jazz step. Or I think that might be all of the genres. Might be all of the genres. Maybe. My favorite songs end up being in order: Tu Biens Avec Moi, Inner City Life, Inner City Life, Inner City Pressure, I Adore You, Digital Horizons, in that order. These songs are different, but they all evoke very fun emotions and are very entertaining and even like infectious for me. You know, like when I hear them, it just like kind of makes me want to nod my head or makes me want to get up and dance and stuff. Like makes me want to get up and do stuff, you know, and I love that. My favorite album ends up being The Journeyman. This album just had plenty of slaps that I added to playlists in comparison to the other two, although I have added songs from all of the albums. Now, before, I had no clue who Goldie was. I hadn't heard a song, so this was very interesting to learn from, and overall a beautiful and informative experience on the artist and EDM as a whole, but specifically drum and bass. Afterwards, I have more appreciation for the people invested in drum and bass and the way it feels, the talents and skills of those that make music in this genre. I've learned so much now. What breakbeats are, sub bass, chop drums, synth stabs, pulse, and I'll admit I can't identify all the subgenres of drum and bass from listening, but I definitely can identify a few of them. I can identify liquid now. I can identify jazz step. I can identify atmospheric, neuro, and jump up. All to some degree for sure. I've not listened to enough drum and bass yet to find my favorite subgenre, but that's going to be a fun part of my listening future. What up, Hero? What up, Hollow Thirst? Y'all in the middle of the vid. Now, I may not be able to describe, let's say, a track like a track by Amos, Ghost Signals. I can't describe, something like that as Amos launches this one off with a smooth pulse of hi-hat cymbals, establishing a mood with a backdrop of synth stabs before rolling into a quick into the quick intro roller break. This sets up the listener for a quick this sets the listener up quick for the build-up of drop, where he introduces a filthy restyled bass line. He builds up the pressure with rise samples while stabbing the Reese through the mix to make the riff clear into the first drop, right? I can't do that. But hard-hitting call and response at its finest here as the tune takes off to fly for his first drop, switching back and forth from the standard two-step style break into a much more layered high-frequency pattern bass change in the cymbals and aux percussion to shuffle the feel up. Rinse for two phrases, and just when the listener gets comfortable, the producer pushes the track into a new territory where he then locks into the groove with a more subtle exchange with the sublime signaling this change with a swelling mid-range bass. That new groove rides for another couple of phrases into the breakdown section, where he then begins to rebuild back into the structure with the subtle modulations in the Reese riff before we're back on target for the redrop. Rides the redrop to a close, heavy, elegant, and stylish all the way through. Case closed. I cannot describe a track like that in such beautiful eloquence, like my guy Static Alpha. Those are totally his words. Totally his words, by the way, not mine. And I butchered it a little bit, but it's clear, you can tell from that description that he has been very dialed in, strapped in, if you will, into drum and bass, and it's beautiful. I can definitely appreciate him stating that in his words, drum and bass is just as much of my life as fighting games. I have a ton of knowledge and experience with it. Been playing since 2000. Music is everything. You know, this is all in regards to drum and bass, you know, and it's beautiful. And at the same time, another friend of mine, Blake, stated, or not Blake, Oni stated, I like the high pacing and the break beats. When it gets into the subgenres, you start to hear different moods and vibes that can hype me up or slow me down. When I hear the break beats, it triggers something in my brain. And that was from the homie Oni. This is a great description of how somebody that loves something feels, it affects them, and I could heavily appreciate that as well. So, stay timeless in the age of digital inner city life on the horizon of Saturn's returns. I recall angels as demonic or holy, but give him a shot. You won't regret checking out the D&B pioneer Goldie. StryfeSight done, baby.